This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
All right, and so we begin another Georgia Farm Monitor, just like we've been doing every week since 1966. Different hosts throughout the years, of course. Welcome all. So glad you tuned in. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Burgamy. As always, the show is packed full of useful information. Now, coming up, some harsh words for President Obama after his recent budget request directly impacts the Savannah Harbor expansion project. We'll explain.
Also on the program, with the advent of social media and the internet, why media training seminars like this one are more important than ever for you, the farmer. And then later, Ranger Nick on how the U.S. Forest Service uses prescribed burns to make the land around us better for all who share it. These stories and more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
County Farm Bureau presidents from all across Georgia recently gathered in Peachtree City for their annual conference. The local Farm Bureau officials are a crucial part of the organization's grassroots structure, and the meeting gives them a great opportunity to hear leadership updates and share information with others from around the state. Over 250 Farm Bureau county presidents, other Farm Bureau volunteer members, leaders, and staff met in Peachtree City. The Georgia Farm Bureau's President's Conference highlights a number of Farm Bureau programs and plans that are developed to assist county presidents. The focal point of this year's conference was the need for advocacy when it comes to promoting the ag industry. UGA Associate Professor in the field of poultry sciences, Dr. Robert Beckstead, shared his thoughts on how education, starting in kindergarten, is helping spread the positive message about farming.
I'm very interested in K through 12 education. Students start making up their mind about what careers they want to follow when they're in grade school. And they're not going to see a TV show that portrays a farmer. They're not going to see a movie that portrays a farmer. And so the only way that they can see somebody who's successful in agriculture is if, one, somebody's coming in and volunteering in the school, and if two, their teacher is excited about agriculture and she's going to teach them about it.
Two key speakers in one of this year's main workshops told the group how they've focused on the Farm Bureau mission.
It's easy, but at the same time it can be difficult just because so many questions come in, confused consumers, angry consumers. So being calm and rational about the answer, but always being able to include the family message, include science, but also giving them an experience through your answer is kind of the combination of how we answer questions that we get on the farm, get on social media, emails, whatever they may be, and in person.
Absolutely. I think this is a great idea and a great program. And just listening to Caroline's message this morning, I learned so much from her. And I feel like there's a great opportunity for us to learn from each other and to become more familiar with these topics and to really take it out throughout the state, because you have your best speakers and advocates right there in your counties. And this is a really excellent opportunity to take that around the state.
As Georgia Farm Bureau remains very active in the legislative arena, at this year's conference, State Senator John Wilkinson from Stevens County told producers that each year during the session, lawmakers partner with Farm Bureau to promote and support agriculture.
The chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, Senator Harper in the Senate, and my colleagues in the Senate, we have a lot of people that understand the importance of agriculture. But as we become more urbanized and the metro area gets bigger, it's just going to be increasingly important for organizations like Farm Bureau and those of us who represent the rural areas to make sure that people understand the importance of agriculture and that we get our pro rata share.
And in other ag news today, commercial fish farming in the Gulf of Mexico is now officially open for business. For the first time in the U.S., companies can now apply to set up floating cages like the ones you see here, enabling them to raise fish in federal waters. The hope is that by allowing commercial cages in federal waters, it would offset foreign imports, which are hard to regulate. According to NOAA, 90% of the fish we eat here in the United States is imported.
Well, closer to home, Georgia Governor Nathan Deal critical of President Obama after his proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year included a lesser amount than what's needed to keep the Savannah Harbor expansion project on track. In total, the budget request includes $67 million for the expansion project. Governor Deal saying anything less than $90 million would put the project further behind schedule and jeopardize the Port of Savannah's market share. Now, according to the Army Corps of Engineers, if the federal government fails to provide at least $80 to $100 million a year to the project for fiscal years 2017 through 2020, the project cannot be completed on time, and the resulting delays will cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Meantime, Georgia beef cattle producers got a great opportunity to gain knowledge that will help them better manage the farming operations.
The Northeast Georgia Beef Cattle Short Course was held in Athens recently and in one day covered many important topics geared at growing Georgia's beef industry. The Monitor's Mark Wildman has that story.
In Athens at UGA's Livestock Instructional Arena, Georgia beef cattle producers were able to hear from many different experts about an industry that has seen some very good times recently.
I kind of joke and say I got some job security because I'm getting a whole lot of calls, people interested in getting into the cattle industry, but still we got a lot of producers here in Georgia. You know, it's one of the industries, we got cattle in every county in the state, so it's great. There's a lot of people out there. Prices are decent, they're not as great as they were last year, but still a great opportunity for people to make money in the cattle industry.
At the Northeast Georgia Beef Cattle Short Course, producers got a great opportunity to hear important information on a wide range of topics.
Some of those are as straightforward as economics, market outlook, working with winter annuals, but things also like bull management, animals they're going to use in the reproductive herd, their bulls, their heifers, but also things like genetic testing, which is a big topic today with cattle, and doing some simple things such as looking at body condition score and how to manage the weight of those cattle, their condition and their reproductive efficiency.
Well, these events, they serve as kind of a cornerstone for extension delivery in the state, along with our county delivery system and our county agents. These kind of things provide a central location for producers to get together, not only learn about problems that we're seeing at the state level, but also share their problems with us so that we can talk about them.
UGA Extension is a great resource for Georgia producers, and it doesn't matter what part of the state you are in, a farmer's local extension agent is just a phone call away.
Our goal is to extend research and knowledge to the producers. So really that's if they can call their county agent, any question they have about cattle, whether it's nutrition, forages, you name it, we're there to help them with the cattle.
Cattle producers in Georgia and around the nation have seen good prices recently, but markets can change quick, and producers need to make sure their operations run as efficiently as possible.
Oh, it's more important now than ever because prices were good and they've kind of fallen back off of us. Cattle supply got very high. The cattle in the feedlots were being held to a lot heavier weights, and they really increased the supply of beef. And that's damaged prices a little bit. So when you've got a narrower margin like that, good management's more important than ever. Even in a good year, you know, genetics are only half the equation. We say the production of an operation really only it equates to two things: your genetics and your management. And you can have the best genetics in the world, if they're managed improperly, you're still not going to make any money at it. So it's the life and soul of these operations.
As producers leave the Northeast Georgia Beef Cattle Short Course, they will carry home a lot of valuable information that will not only enhance their own farm, but will help the overall cattle industry in Georgia, which is a great boost to the state's economy. Reporting from Athens, I'm Mark Wildman for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Here's a question for you. What would you say or do if a reporter suddenly stuck a microphone in your face? No clue? Up next, why more and more farmers should consider media training. Stay with us.
I'm Sarah. I'm a farmer from North Dakota. One of the things that we're talking about today are about the amounts of pesticides that are used, the amount of weed killer that we would use in an acre of cropland would actually be just about the size of that coffee cup there. Most of what we spray on our fields is actually water. And so a lot of people don't realize that this is all we use. Just that little bit is enough to take care of an acre worth of crops. And that would be equivalent to a football or soccer field. We've farm 4,500 acres.
Wow.
4,500 of those, we're able to manage it to the square inch.
Wow.
And it's really amazing technology. We're even able to control the droplet size when we do apply crop protection products.
That's very interesting.
Our #1 priority is to raise healthy crops that are going to sustain our farm and are going to keep our land healthy for generations.
That makes me feel better.
Well, good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, let's get you some coffee. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, there's your Nada latte.
All right.
Hope you enjoy it. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for stopping by.
Thank you.
And it does take a little bit of elbow grease, which you'd think I know what that is.
I know, you're a farmer after all.
Well, with so many outlets to choose from now, it's more important than ever for people involved in agriculture to receive appropriate media training.
Well, that's why the Georgia Peanut Commission recently hosted a training seminar in Tifton that was aimed at giving farmers tips on how to properly handle interviews. Damon Jones has that story.
Whether it's sharing on television, radio, or even social media, farmers and all those involved in agriculture are vital to the success of the industry as they are the ones spreading its story. And that's why media training sessions like this one recently held at the Nestball building in Tifton is so important.
Well, the Georgia Peanut Commission is hosting media training for peanut farmers and extension agents and young farmer advisors. And we hope that this will benefit them to be more prepared for interviews, whether it's with the TV station or local newspaper or radio broadcaster.
Those in attendance received tips on how to handle interviews, what questions to ask, and what to share on their social media pages. It's all in an effort to provide the best way to relate to the public.
Well, you want to look like an intelligent, well-informed person when you make those kind of comments, and so being able to relate to people in ways that they'd understand what we're trying to do as farmers and agriculturalists is the main key.
And one of the main reasons getting correct information out to the public is so vital is because there is now such a misunderstanding about the industry as people get further and further removed from the farm.
I mean, if anybody's on social media today, you can see all kinds of misinformation out there, things that are just made up, or people who have problems with certain agricultural organizations, and being able to communicate with those people or people that may be following that stuff and letting them know the true story and what's really going on in agriculture is important.
And what better people to hear it from than those who are around it each and every day. It's why knowing how to handle yourself in interviews is becoming an essential skill.
I think it's very important because, you know, a lot of times people like to hear from the farmer themselves. They like to know what is it that you're doing on the farm and why are you doing this or that and how does it help you. And so I think if we enable the farmers to be able to tell their story and tell it in the most efficient and correct way, then that will benefit all of agriculture.
And this idea came about not from the commission or government, but from farmers themselves.
And he had went through our Peanut Leadership Academy where we have a media training for those farmers, and he said that he needed a refresher course, and so he suggested that this become an activity that the Peanut Commission does.
It's a seminar that should catch on in more areas of the state, as being media savvy is important to a number of jobs within the industry.
It would be wonderful if we could implement stuff like this all across the state, where we could talk to farmers and ag teachers and extension agents and 4-H agents and really focus on training for these individuals, because it's important, because media is out there. Social media is so relevant and so popular today that I think it's extremely important that we find ways to communicate, especially with the younger generations.
Reporting from Tifton, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Here's a reminder, if you missed any part of this story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. That's the Georgia Farm Monitor. Once there, you can browse the archive of stories dating as far back as 2009.
And once you're done watching all those informative stories, just keep clicking and like the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page we've set up for you. Also, if you have a story idea or if you just want to leave us a comment or a suggestion, feel free, send us a message either on Facebook or at the address listed below. That is news@farm-monitor.com. Well, sure, Mom always said never play with fire, but in this case, it is perfectly okay. Up next, Ranger Nick on how the U.S. Forest Service uses fire to make the land around us better for future generations. Stay tuned.
I remember when I grew up, you work, and then there was a point where you don't like the farm because you've been working so hard, and you go off to college and you go do something else, and that's what I did do. And the longer I was away, the more I had that yearning in my heart to come back and be a part of that operation. And like I said, when that opportunity did come around, that's what I decided to jump on. And so why I farm, it's part of a legacy almost, from back to my parents, and being part of that 5th generation coming back in, because I am the first one of our generation to come back to the farm. And it's always neat to look back on history and see that part of it and move it forward and be a part of the bigger picture, and hopefully to grow this operation and make it part of my mark in our family history.
Greg is the first member of the 5th generation to join, and that's a pretty big deal. Because there's been so much interest in our family, the farm is big. We farm a lot of acres, and there's a little bit of diversity in there as well. But just the fact that it's been so many years and we've been able to grow throughout those years is something we're really proud of.
We have about 5,000 acres that we farm. We also have about 250 head of brood cows that we have. We farm popcorn. That's kind of our specialty crop. We have about 600 acres of popcorn that we farm. We also have soybeans and corn that we do. There's integrity in this business, and I think it's always been a part of that. A part of Corcoran Farms is that we do things the right way. We don't look to cut corners. We don't look to make at the end of the day, we're trying to make ends meet, but we're also trying to do it the right way. And I think if I were to spread that to a community, to people around, the neighbors that aren't part of farming, aren't part of agriculture, I want them to know that we're doing it right. We've been doing it right, and we're looking into the future to make sure we continue to do it right. Finally today, for his milestone 25th episode here on The Monitor, UGA Associate Professor Dr. Nick Furman, also known as Ranger Nick, wanted to do something really special, something hot off the presses, so to speak.
Yeah, because as we all know, he's passionate about what he does. The fire burns within him. However, on this day, the fire was burning around him.
We'll talk about being fired up this month. I certainly am. In the same way that a doctor prescribes a drug for someone, the U.S. Forest Service is doing a prescribed burn right here in Georgia. And I'm hanging out with Holly and Tim today with the U.S. Forest Service. We want to talk a little bit about the planning, implementing, and then evaluating stages of forest fires, prescribed burns. Holly, talk to us a little bit about how your agency plans for something like what's going on today.
So it starts with the NEPA process, which is environmental planning, and we go through working with our communities and our partners to look at the land, see what might need to be fixed, what is its existing condition, and then decide what we need to do to bring it back to where it should be. And prescribed fire is one of our largest tools that we use to do that.
It's wonderful because out here in this land, we've got a lot of coarse woody debris, a lot of dead wood out there. We've got a lot of fuel on site, and a lot of wildlife benefit from positive disturbances like the red cockaded woodpecker, maybe something that might be seen in this part of Georgia, right?
That's correct. So we don't have a red cockaded woodpecker here in this unit here today, but we do have some in the area. And then also the wildlife that will benefit from this burn today are the bobwhite quail, wild turkey, species like that depend on the open savanna grass-like habitat to survive.
Amazing. And some of this kind of stuff, and we're out here right here, the disturbance is positively influencing wildlife. Let's learn a little bit more about how we're implementing and then evaluating the effect of something like this, Holly. That's great. So Holly was talking about the importance of disturbance in a pine ecosystem like this. Holly, talk to us about what did a place like this used to look like hundreds of years ago?
So before Western settlement, 200-300 years ago, this would have been an open park-like savanna with grasses and fob understory and tall, towering longleaf pine trees is what it primarily would have been.
So now the longleaf pines, here's the deal with how special these trees are. They depend on fire. Their cones are coated in wax, and they require fire to come through, melt the waxy coating along the cone, and release those seeds. Well, in an area like we're in today, fire and smoke, and folks have got to be wondering, what about some small mammals, reptiles, amphibians that might be out there in this? one particular reptile that we might find out there happens to be the state reptile of Georgia, the gopher tortoise. And here's one that we found out here. Just look at the face on that. Just a gorgeous little turtle. But I want to talk about the importance of the gopher tortoise, a keystone species. Without this species, just like a center stone in an archway, without that center stone, the other stones fall down. This species digs gigantic burrows under the ground. Folks, the size of a school bus under the ground, a burrow. Animals require that burrow to survive a fire, and they go into that burrow. So without the gopher tortoise, who gophers in the ground, so many of those animals would be at their detriment from a fire like this. So we are so thankful for animals like the gopher tortoise here in Georgia, and especially in the longleaf pine ecosystem. That's wonderful. So it's a sunny, beautiful day in Georgia. You might be thinking at home, does the U.S. Forest Service just decide willy-nilly, let's go ahead and burn some stuff up today? Holly, I'm assuming they don't. Of course, what kinds of things go on in preparation for an event like what's going on behind us today?
That's a great question. There's a huge field of study that goes into both the planning and the implementation of a prescribed burn the day of. So what we do is once we have the environmental policy in place, approval to be able to go out and do it, and we know that the forest needs it, we'll look at a bunch of different conditions. So conditions like wind speed, temperature, fuel moisture, and by fuel moisture, how wet is the stuff on the ground? A wet log won't burn. Sure. We look at all of those conditions to see, are things right? Are we going to get the right effects for that fire? And then we look at the burn unit itself and look at natural boundaries like water or roads that we can use to be minimally invasive without putting in hand lines or dozer lines if we can avoid it if possible.
Holly, I'm hearing this helicopter overhead. We've got lots of folks on the ground with the fire lines, making sure, using this road, that things don't get out of control. Mm-hmm. This helicopter in the sky, is this associated with this too?
Absolutely. So helicopters are really the workhorse of prescribed fire in the Southeast. And we use helicopters to burn out the interior of a prescribed fire block. We use roads primarily to burn out. So firefighters are carrying drip torches along the roads. That's what you see here behind me is this fire line. And so we burn out along the roads, black it in. And then a helicopter, like you're hearing up above us right now, will come in and drop little sphere ignition devices about the size of a ping pong ball from the helicopter. And those ignite on contact. And that's how we burn off the interior of that burn after we've blackened all the way around the edges.
Interesting. So on the outside, kind of like a donut, you're taking care of the outside first, and then the inside is taken from the air. Man, this is amazing. Look at this. Just cool stuff. The number of folks it takes to do something like this today, look at that. My gosh. Amazing. This is excellent, Holly. Thanks. Well, we got to give a big shout out to Holly Craik here. Holly, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. What a cool thing. Fired up about it for sure. Blazing new trails, no pun intended, with the Georgia Farm Monitor. Hey, this has been a blast. If you want to learn more about this, there's a link that you can follow from the U.S. Forest Service to learn more about burn areas here in Georgia that they're managing with prescribed fires. While you're on the internet, check out the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page. And while you're on there, hop on over to the Ranger Nick Facebook page. I love you for doing that stuff. And until next time, for the Georgia Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you that Holly, enthusiasm is contagious. It burns in all of us, right? No pun intended. So pass that stuff on. Y'all have a great rest of the month. We'll look forward to seeing you right back here next time. See ya.
All right, Nick, great job as always. That is going to do it for this week's edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Here's a reminder for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm. Be sure and check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of farming, plus here on the Farm Monitor Show.
Take care, everybody. We will see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.